should be getting good audio. And we are now recording. Okay. Keep the cam on.
How's that font size for everyone? This should be an interactive class, so you guys should be speaking. Thank you.
Say something about yourself, Lee.
All right, so my name's Lee Baird. I grew up here in Charleston. I graduated from Marshall. I live in the D.C. area. I'm a senior security consultant. I travel around, do pen tests, vulnerability assessments. I've worked in doing classified government stuff, and now I'm doing commercial and working in the energy sector, pen testing power plants and such. Anyone else have a problem? Or is everyone connected to the internet okay? Have connectivity? Awesome. Okay, just to kind of get a feel for the experience we have in the room, who here is completely new to Linux? Okay, that's fine. Anybody completely new to bash scripting? Little, okay. How about intermediate level bash scripting? And who should be teaching the course besides me? Anyone? Bueller? One person. Okay, great. All right, so this is not a death by PowerPoint presentation. This is get down and do it on the command line. So you guys should have your laptops out. You should be following along. So basically, I'll be giving you little 1- and 2-liners. You guys should be replicating this code on your own, and we'll start to create multiple little bash scripts that's going to help automate various processes for you, and hopefully speed up your pen testing time. Okay, so first off, with Bash, with Linux, there are 3 different types of editors that I'll be talking about. The first one is Nano. Anyone use Nano in here? Awesome. Okay, so if you haven't, we'll do a quick demonstration. To create a file with Nano or with any editor, you type in the editor and then the file name that you want to create. So, for example, now you're in the Nano editor. Okay, to save the file, Control X. The screen's going to come up. You want to save these changes, you just hit Y. And you can rewrite the name, or you can do the default name that you just said, and you just hit Enter. You now created the file. You can list the directory, and you can see that I created the test 1. You can do the same type of thing with Vi. Vi is significantly more complicated than Nano, but Vi is going to be installed on all your Linux systems, so when eventually you do get a root shell at some point in your career, you'll probably be in the Vi interface, and you won't have access to Nano. So Vi is definitely important that you learn. That for a GUI interface, I use gedit. So again, just type in the editor, the name of the file that you want to create, and it's more like just a straight-up text editor. Now to view the files, you just use the cat command. You can use wildcards if you want to view multiple files. So if we can go like this, read both files at the same time. Anyone have a question on that? All right. It's all right. Civic Wireless. Username is social. Password is 2014. No problem. Okay. Okay, so to remove a file in Linux, it's just rm and the file name. You could remove multiple files at the same time, again, by using a wildcard. So I could do this right here. All right. I'm just touching on some basic Linux stuff as well. Okay. So right now you guys should have 2 files already created. And we'll be building on these. Let me get my notes here in order. All right, so I'm getting my notes here in order. Why don't we go around the room, starting right here. Give us the who, what, why, what's your name, what do you do, and why you're here. What do you want to learn?
Lewis, just trying to pick up some new tricks.
Awesome. Are you in Bill Gardner's courses?
Yeah.
Okay. No, not at all. I wish Marshall had computer courses when I was there. I wouldn't have had to take accounting. Awesome. Awesome. Vulnerable. In the back of the room. Make my life miserable today. Very sorry. Awesome. It's always good to feel safe while you're talking. Living the dream. And for you guys that don't know the bearded man in the front row, Adrian, Iron Geek Crenshaw, the man, the myth, the legend. Okay, after all that silliness is out of the way. All right, so we've got, we had 2 files created, but we went ahead and deleted them. Okay, so how can you create a file? You can use touch and the file name. That will create an empty file. To view the file, just type cat. It's empty. If we want to pump information into the file, let's say so we're piping the output of that over into temp, and cat temp now. See, that's there. If we want to append information to a file, everyone see how that works to append information to a file? Okay. All right, so let's create, let's see what we got here. All right, so let's create our first script. Okay, so a good way to work while you're, let's see here, this resolution is wacky. Okay, to start off, you want to do a shebang, bin, bash. Sure. Is that better? Yep, working on that. How's that? Better? Bueller? Anyone? Wow. Okay. Thank you. Living the dream, right? All right. So first thing we want to do is we want to clear the screen, put in a couple of blank lines, and then let's say something to everyone. I should have done. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make the file executable. I'm going to do a chmod 755. Do I need to explain what chmod 755 means? Anyone? Okay. Okay, you can see the file has turned green. To execute the file, period /. Okay, so now I want to talk about hard coding in, setting up variables in your file. So let's say, do a clear. You can put comments in your file by using the pound sign. And I'll go. And then I'll set up, let's see. How do you find out what user you're running as in Linux? What's the command? Awesome. Okay, so we can set up the user. User equals the output of the who am I. Everyone see how I got that? Okay. There. All right, so that's using setting up your first variable. We can also use variables, or let's see here. We'll call this one break. So what's this going to do right here? Correct. So now, the next time, instead of retyping this out, you might have different breaks. You might have a short, a medium, and a long, and instead of counting those out each time, so for example, this might be, let's see, break, medium. Sure. How about now? All right. Okay. So there's a couple of variables for us. Okay, so you can chain together commands. Go back just to the line here. Say, for example, we wanted to ping Google 3 times and then do an ifconfig. So we could do. What's the difference between ping on Linux and ping on Windows? It works? Is that what you said? That's awesome. Right. So how do we limit it or give it a number of times? Right. Okay. We want to change together command. Everyone see how that works? Chain together the command with the semicolon. So let's go back to the script that you hopefully have been writing. And we'll do another. Everyone see how that works? Any questions? All right. Good? So anything you can do from command line, you can also do in the bash script. So for example, we were talking about removing files earlier. So let's say I want to remove all the temp files here. All right, notice we have an error at the bottom. It's basically saying cannot remove the file because there's no such file or directory. When you've got a script that start getting larger and larger and larger, you might come. It might generate different types of files. It might generate .text files, .doc files, .xl files, or whatever, and you're just trying to clean up all the trash. So, for example, you want to clean up all this. You can also use wildcards here. So, for example, if I wanted to do or all the .txt files, I can use that. Again, we'll run. We should get some errors at the bottom. So when you're running this file, you want to try to suppress these errors and keep that nonsense away from the user. So what you can do here is, so notice that's been suppressed. What I did was I took that line and went to greater than to dev null, and it's basically throwing that in the trash and not giving that output to the user. So for example, you might want to do, if you're using a wget to download a page, and if you see, okay, all that output that came right there, if we don't want to see that to the screen, we go to much cleaner, much nicer for the user. While you're working on your script, you'd obviously want to see this, and then once it gets ready to release it out to your project, GitHub or whatever, you want to clean stuff up so make it a lot nicer for the user. Okay. Any questions on how to hide output to the user? All right. Okay, sometimes we might want to put a pause in our bash script. Wait for the user, say for example, press enter to continue. So let's do this. Let's insert this. Times. I want to do. All right, so what's this statement going to do right here? Want to take a guess? So it's basically reading the input from the user, and it's basically waiting for a return. So it's giving a pause to the user. So if we run this. So ping complete. Ping is just an example here. It might be something else that you're important. You're going, okay, so the user's taking a look at the data. They're like, okay, I want to continue with the script. The next command was ifconfig. So now you know how to hide information from the user. You know how to pause your script and wait for user input. Okay. Any question on that? Yeah. Still waiting for the enter. So we're going to talk about catching errors and mistakes from users, because everyone knows that users don't follow the instructions. I know I don't. Okay, so we're going to get into that right now. All right. So let's go ahead and create a new script. How do we start the script off? Shebang. In bash. I'll clear the screen. Drop down a couple lines. Let's save this. Okay. How do we give the script executable rights? Chmod what? Okay. All right. Does everyone know what those three numbers mean? All right. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we're going to start grabbing input from the user. And we're going to use that the read command. So I'm just making up a variable here, calling it fname, and then we're going to echo that back. Basic. Everyone understand that? All right, we're going to start building on this stuff. All right, so next thing we want to do is let's do the last name. And I'm going to cheat. Everyone understand we got two different variables working now? So instead of to comment out, again, like I said, you can just use a pound. So let's do echo. Everyone see how that works? All right. Boring, right? Wrong. All right. When you're first doing recon against a target, what are some of the things that you want to do? Let's say somebody pick out a company we want to go after. Anything besides .gov. Anyone? No, not that. How about CNN? All right. So, for example, we want to do some searches to try to find some people at work at CNN, or let's just do a background search on a particular person. Want to use yourself. So, what are some good search sites to go find recon on people? Where? Okay. This is part of the whole class participation thing again. What's that? Can you spell it? Okay. Any other common ones that people familiar with? Salesforce is a good one. Okay, how about we just Google for some? Okay. So take your pick. I'm going to grab a couple sites here. Okay. What can you tell about the URL here? Can't see it? Shit. Okay. Fire up your browser, type in 411.com, and type in your first and last name, hit enter, and take a look at the URL and tell me what you see. What is it? Do you see your name in the URL? Okay, so that first example we just used, that lame script on what's your first name and what's your last name, now we can script this site up. Okay, so we can see, or you might not be able to see, but it's, we'll get it back here in just a second. Copy. Okay. So we're going to start Firefox on Kali. You can say Firefox or Iceweasel. You just type in Firefox. Okay, so you say Firefox and give it the URL. Now, if we went back here, you guys cannot see that. All right, so right here the URL, it's basically, let's see that. It's first name dash last name, then a forward slash. So let's come over here and do F name. And then L name. Everyone see that? Now let's give that a shot and see what happens. That is correct. It's the $sign. So we say Firefox, we give Firefox the URL, and we pass the two variables that we got from our users into the URL. There you go. Now, again, you might think, lame. Now, when I started asking people about the different types of websites that you want to go to, normally everybody has their own little list of, I go to, PQ or 411, or there's tons and tons of websites that are out there that you can do this to. So let's say we have another website. Let's go back to our script. Now, actually, getting ready to cover that right now. Notice how I'm still in the script. I don't have control back. What I should have done was put an ampersand at the very end, and that will give me control back. Oh, by the way, if you're in a script and it hangs like that, just hit Control-C to get out of it. Script executes and then drops out of the shell. Okay? So let's go back to our script. Get rid of this. Remember our other script that we had? Let's come here. Let's copy that line over. So now tell me what this script is going to do from the very start. We're going to clear the screen. We're going to ask for user input. We're going to read the user first name. We're going to ask for the last name, read the last name. We're going to echo to the user starting recon on first, last name, variables. Press any key to continue. They're like, are you ready to start? Yes, hit enter. It's going to go to our first website. And let's see what we got. Are we caught up? Because we're going to keep building on this script. So right now your script should look like this. You can put spaces in your script to break sections apart, just whatever it is easiest for you to read. I've got horrible eyesight, so I always break stuff apart. Okay. Again, any questions where we are? Hopefully everyone's got this copied in. So the next question was, actually we're going to go back to this question. The guy was like, what if you don't hit enter? We were talking about catching errors from the user. What happens if the person doesn't put in their first name and puts in the last name? What do you think is going to happen? The URL is going to fail. Because it was looking for two variables. Okay, so now we want to be able to catch to make sure that every time we ask the user a question, that they give us some input. Okay. No, I don't want to install Flash. Okay. It basically, well, the URL would have put the URL and then first name dash, first variable dash second variable. The first variable was just blank. So it was just dash last name. And the website went, I don't know what you're talking about. So it errored out. Okay, so again, like I said, we're going to be building on this. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up to right here. Any questions so far? All right, so what we want to do now is check for no answer from the user. So let's come down here. And we're going to use an if-then statement. So again, I like to separate stuff out just so I can read it. These are brackets. So if space, open bracket space, minus Z, which is saying if that variable is empty, then do the next line. The next line says you did not enter a name. Okay. You can also put this on the same line like this. Whoops. There, like that. I'm separating that with the semicolon. So that right there is the same as this. Okay, I'm going to put it like this for right now. So I want to put a comment in here because I might come back a week from now and go, I have no idea what Lee was talking about there. So, okay. So let's run our script. Is this going to fail? Yes, because we still didn't give it a first name. So even though we checked for bad user input and we told the user you did not enter a first name, we allowed the script to continue. What should we have done? Kill the script or exit the script. Like that. So now let's run that again. Understand? What's the next thing we need to check for? Last name. It is. So we want to copy this entire pattern. And use it down here. What are we going to change? Right. So now we're going to make this just a little prettier. So we're giving feedback to the user. You can follow directions. Ready to start the recon. Hit enter to start. So that's a good place to use the initial pause. So when you're wow, okay, I don't see that diet thing. So you always want to be communicating with the user. Yes, you did a good job. Now we're going to continue. Or no, you didn't do a good job. Now we're going to exit. So right here is the part that you need to make sure you have that for both the first and last name. Then we're going to move on to the next question, which was how to open up a tab in Firefox. Again, we're going to keep building on the same script. That's probably easier to see. Okay, we're good? Are we asleep? There's some heads came up. Okay. Normally to get help on any command, what do? -H. So do Firefox -H. What switch can we use in there to answer his question? New tab. Okay. So -new tab. Give it the URL that you want to open. Let's type in Firefox -H. You should be looking at the help. So, let's see here. Man, I can't. So another site that I like to use is called PQ.com. Go ahead and type in your first name and last name there. PEEKYOU. Take a look at the URL. Then using the new tab, I want you to add to your script the next website down here. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Dash new dash tab. If you do Firefox -H, you should see it. Okay, what's the next line going to be? Anyone? Bueller? This should be super easy. Thank you. Okay, well, let's do that then. Because why? Okay. Okay. So, what's our URL? Is it www or just PQ? Okay. Then what? What's the rest of the URL look like? Okay. So, first name, underscore, sorry. First name, underscore, last name. What else? In between? Okay, let's pull it up here. Okay, mine's coming back first name, underscore, last name. So let's try that. Let's give that a run. It's stuck. It's not bringing up the new tab. You need to add the ampersand back on to the first one. So notice when I quit that tab, or when I quit that page, it continued with the script and added this. So it was in a holding page. So you want to be able to keep the process going, keep the job going rather. So let's do this. Okay, that's brand new. Okay, I actually updated Iceweasel last night, and this never happened. Let's see if it goes as soon as the system. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's try this. This is what it should be done. So these are all different websites that I use to gather personal information on people, and the specific URLs are different from each. Like this one is first name plus last name. That one did not work. Okay, so we got 411.com. Another good one is cvgadget.com. We did PQ. Addresses.com. PIPL.com. Spokium. Now, that lame script turned into something that's going to be able to help you do recon on your targets very, very quickly. Again, using just two variables and checking for user input. So you definitely want to write these websites down in your text file. CVGadget, CharlieVictorGadget.com, PeakU.com. We'll copy this over to the file. I'm actually going to type them out for you here. Okay. 411. There. Is that better? Anyone have any questions? So you'd say Firefox, then give it the variable. I'm sorry, give it the switch, which would be dash new tab. You can find that right here. Whoa. And you would want to give it an ampersand after each one of these. Zaba Search, Z-A-B-A search.com. Again, use whatever search engine that you like to use and script it up just like this, like we spoke about. I do notice that Iceweasel seems to get bogged down. So what I tend to do is have it sleep for a minute, for a second. Or like we said about combining functions together on this, or scripts together on the same line, we could just do a semicolon and do that. Same thing. Okay, so now if we're, is everyone caught up with that? Yes, no? All right, so when we're doing recon, what else are we wanting to take a look at besides people that work for the company? How about using their domain and check for DNS? So if you go to Google and type in DNS report, you'll get several different sites that come up. We're going to use the same example that we just did, except now we're going to give it one variable, and instead of first or last name, what are we going to pass it? The domain. Exactly. So I want you to build a new script, and this script, call it, whatever, dnsrecon.sh. Mirror the last script. You want to clear the screen, tell the user, that you're looking for a particular domain. You want to read that in. You want to check to see if the user didn't put a domain in. Give it an error, exit the script. If they did, let them know that, hey, you did okay. Press any key to continue. And using some of the sites off right here, I want you to go to these sites, take a look at how to pass the variables up in the URL for different ones, just like we did with these right here. Yes. So you can rename that first script to, recon-people. This next script will be recon-DNS. So you should be able to copy a lot of the code from the first script and modify it for your second script. It should save you a lot of time. That's how it should work. So what we're doing with Bash is we're automating a recon process. We're making a repeatable process so that every time that you go do a recon on a particular person, you're using the same sites. Obviously, that this script is so basic and so simple as you talk to your friends and going, hey man, what do you use for recon for people? And they'll shoot you an ERL and see if you can go in and manipulate it the same way. Pretty soon you'll have a dozen places that you go, wow, grab a lot of information. The main thing is to be able to get as much recon or get as much work done in the least amount of time, the least amount of effort. Be as efficient and repeatable as possible. Adrian, are you okay? So to do this very quickly, you're going to would rename the first script to recon.people. Select it all, paste it into your next one. We're going to call this one recon domain. Okay. Make it executable. Okay. All right, so let's start modding this script really quickly. Are we going to ask for first and last name in this? No. All right, so let's get rid of the last name. What are we going to ask for? Right. You guys watching? Okay. Let's change this variable name from fname to domain. What's the next thing we want to change? Good. Next thing? How about line 12? Where it said you did not enter a first name? You didn't enter a domain. What's the next thing we're going to change? 17. What are we changing? Correct. See how fast we're going through this? Okay. So here's what we're going to replace. Quickly. There. That's our infrastructure really quick. Obviously replace the XXX with, open up your browser, go to Google, type in DNS report, start working through those domains. The what? You did? Good. Hmm. Awesome. Good. Again, when you're asking your friends, hey, what's your favorite URL to do this? The URL are going to be different for each, so you're going to have to modify your script. But that's your basic infrastructure right there. Actually, we don't need the last one. Okay, does everyone see what I just did? I basically just opened up a new tab on all those search results. Okay, and I'm just going to start working at the very first one and see what happens. This one is dnscollars.com. What's up, Adrian? You okay? You went. Oh, yeah, that's true. Another one is dnsstuff.com. Let's see. There. All right, on the first one that we used, dnscolors.com, when the URL comes back, the report comes back, it's DNS colors. I'll just copy. So we're going to be able to add that website to our script. Yes or no, it's easy. Why not? Exactly. Everyone see that? All right. So even though that's a great report, we can't automate it. That's true. I'm trying to be super simplistic. All right, so let's try this one. Into DNS.com. Here's what the URL looks like. Can we script that? All right. So we're going to replace the first one right here. What are we going to change? Well, we just replaced the triple X with the URL. What do we got to replace in the URL so it works in the script? What's the variable? That's it. Ah, Try dnsstuff.com. Copy and paste the URL in. Replace marshall.edu with your domain. Okay, so there's 4 different sites. Let's see how this works now. Okay, what happened to our script? What's the problem here? How many URLs are we trying to pull up? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many results did we get? We missed one. Okay. What happens is when you try to automate Iceweasel, sometimes it'll miss the very first URL. So to get around that, I'll just type in Firefox, then I'll do a sleep for like 4 seconds. So even though I've been opening up Firefox in the same session, if you reboot your machine and you try to run this and open up Firefox for the first time, it takes a couple of extra seconds to open up. So, whoops, what's wrong? To get around that, we're going to call Firefox sleep for 4 seconds, and then start going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different URLs. So let's see if that fixes our problem. Using the same domain. Opens up Firefox to the default page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fixed our problem. So now you got 2 recon scripts. You got recon on individual people and recon on domains. And you literally typed in 3 words: first name, last name, and just domain. Cool, useful, lame. You are correct. You're able to manipulate stuff even though it's not passed in the URL. I'm just trying to keep it basic. Again, hit your friends up for links. people call me all the time. Hey, can you add this stuff into your script or whatever? So, for example, here's my main script where I put a bunch of these bash scripts together to automate things. It's called Discover. It's up on GitHub. I'll give you a link to that at the end of the course. And it's menu-driven, and it's all part of little teeny scripts, just like the two we just created. So, for example, I want to do recon on a domain. Hit 1. Do we want to do active or passive? I want to do passive. Again, enter the target. If the user doesn't enter a target, I give them an error message. Goes back. Same thing with the person. Up here. It opens up Kali, does exactly what we just did. We'll get into building that framework here in just a little bit. Thank you very much. Okay. Does anyone know how late this class is supposed to go? Is it supposed to stop at lunch, or is it supposed to go through till 2? Or okay. Are we supposed to? Are they providing lunch for us?
I know. I'm providing lunch today. What they got on the schedule?
Are we taking?
We can take a 3 or 4 each. Lunchtime, Friday, it just says lunchtime. Or it does say sponsor 3 or 4 each. I don't know if they're actually reading the food.
Okay.
That's the new. You want to take a break? We can also switch out
projectors. Okay, let's do that. Let's take a break. Try to get caught up with try to put as many URLs as you have in for your people and for your domain, and we'll pick back up here in, say, 10 minutes. Okay. So how are we doing so far? Anything useful? Anything that you think you'll be able to use? All right. Here's my GitHub repository. It's github.com/LeeBaird. And inside of Discover is my main framework, which I showed you guys just a little bit about. But probably underneath, like the notes section, I'll have the scripts from this class. I'll just create a new folder that says HackerCon, and it'll have a copy of the scripts that we created. These two right here. So we got recon-people and recon-domain so far. So I know people are having a hard time seeing the screen, and some can't type as fast as others, so you'll be able to pull it down when you need it. All right, so any question on the two scripts that we've created so far using variables, hard coding with like the break, or getting user input? We also talked about hiding screen output, piping stuff to dolnev from the user. We've talked about catching errors from the user. For example, if they're typing in their first name and they don't, we can check for no answer and exit the script. All right. And we talked about using Firefox, using the new tab switch to open up multiple domains. We also talked about that there was a reason that whenever you fire up Firefox for the first time, it also takes just a few extra seconds. So we use Firefox ampersand and let it sleep for about 4 seconds just so it wakes up. That way it doesn't miss anything in our list. Okay. Any questions on the two scripts we've done so far? All right. All right, so let's create a new script. Copy the first part right here. And then this one is going to be call this one open list. Oops. Okay. All right, so we've got our new script. It's called open list. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to feed it a list of URLs to open, just like we did with the reconnaissance for people or reconnaissance for domain. A lot of times you go into a client and they're like, or you've done, let's say, an Nmap scan, and you've got a list of hosts that return that all are running port 80, and you want to open up this list and take a look at, what all is running. This is what we're going to build the script for. That's the use case. All right. So instead of entering a domain, change this variable to list. What's the next thing we need to change? Right? Let's do location. Okay. So I'm going to create another new file. It's just called list. I'm going to put some domains in here. Okay. This will be the list that you get from your client of all the different domains they want you to take a look at it, or maybe the results of your Nessus scan. But you'll get the idea here. All right, so first thing we're going to do is take a look for our list. We're going to run our script. Whoops. Open list. What am I doing here? Save. So again, we're checking for no input. There was no input. We're checking. All right, now. All right, so no errors. All right, so let's see. So we're just going to check to see if our script is actually passing through here. Okay, so it knows that that the location that we gave it is correct because it's printing out good job. Now what happens, we're checking if the user doesn't put any input in. What's another check that we could add in for the user? Okay, file doesn't exist or the wrong location. Okay, so let's put in another check. We're going to copy this. All right. not exist. Sorry. Okay, so now we're checking for no input, and we're checking for the wrong file location. So if there was no input, you did not enter a location. Oops. If you entered the wrong location, it'll tell you. All right? And if we entered the right location, we know that our script's working. Okay? So that's just a little marker in there. So we're using the -Z right here. Check for no response, and we're using the bang and a -F to look for the wrong location. You guys need me to crank the font size up more, or is that good? Yep, no worries. Better? Alright, so now we're going to use a for loop, and we're going to iterate basically through the list that the user supplies, and we're going to use the switch that we used the last time, the new tab. We're going to iterate through that list and open up a new tab with each location. So again, just putting in refers. Let's say hi. Okay, so for this for loop, we're going to say for I in, and we're going to assign a variable. We're going to cat the location that will be given to our user, and then we're going to do, what do we say we want to do? We're going to open up Firefox with a new tab for each location. Okay, so what would the next line be? Right? And then what? What's the variable? Correct. And then we want to put that ampersand at the end. What do we always do after we open a new tab? How long? And we close the loop with a done. Okay. So in order to catch everyone, what's the one thing that we got to put in there for Firefox so that we catch the first iteration? Good. Okay. There we go. Done. That's the 3 URLs that we put in, and that's the basic URL that Firefox or Iceweasel opens up. That's your script. So this time, what we added was the for loop. It built on what we ran in the past. Any questions on the for loop? Okay, so we're going to do the same type of thing. Does everyone know what the robots.txt file is from a domain? What is it? Okay. Okay. So what does it also tell you about the website? Right. It's places you actually want to go look. All right. So using the same type of stuff we've been doing, the next thing I want you to do is, actually we've got to use wget real quick. There we go. All right, so we're going to use wget the domain / robots.txt. So using that line, I want you to build a new script called robots.sh. You're going to do a wget. You're going to take the user input from user for a domain. You're going to use wget to pull down that domain's robot.txt file. And then you're going to open up a new tab for each one of the folders in the robots.txt file. So if you go back to your second script, your recon.domain, you can go ahead and just copy the first 14 lines. Save this one, call it robots.sh. Give it executable permissions. I already started. So what's the next line going to be? We just went over it. Right. Then what? What's the user input we're getting? What's the variable? Okay. And what do we want to get from that? Save that, run it. Cat that file, take a look at it. Use whatever domain you want. So your robots text file should look something like this. Obviously, it'll be different for every domain. Okay. So the folders that we want to open, how can we pick those folders out of that line? What? Which lines do we want to pull out of here? Right, the ones that say disallow, okay? So we're going to use grep, okay? So get the file that we just used. We use pipe. We're going to grep, single quote, and then what you're wanting to grep for. Everyone see that? Now, what do we want to pull out? How do we want to parse this part down? What's the next thing we want from that list? What? Just the directories. Okay? So the directories is actually, there's one of two ways we can do this. We can use cut with a delimiter, or we can use awk. So I'm going to use both methods here. So with awk, we want to grab the second column. So I'm going to pipe this, say awk. So awk, single tick, squiggly line, print, and tell it what column you want to print. Close squiggly line, single tick. Does everyone see that? Okay. How do we throw all that into a file? That output. It's one of the very first things we did. We want to pipe that output into another file name. How do you do that? Pipe that into a file like that. Okay, let's call it temp. Cat temp. Bam. This right here should be the next line in your code. Copy that here. Single tick. All right, instead of using awk, we can use cut. So we want to cut with a delimiter, minus D, and our delimiter here is going to be the /. So single tick, / single tick. Wait a minute. Sorry. Our delimiter is going to be a space. And we want to bring the second field. Everyone see that method? What would happen if I used a delimiter of a / instead? Right. Which we could still work with that, but All right, so what I would do is I would copy this, come over here, let's put in a comment. Let's see. Now I've got two different ways to do the same thing. Okay, so we only want to use one, so I'm just going to comment out this line right here. Save your file. All right, run your file and see if you get the results out that you should. So let's see here. Whoops. Right there. I just delete my file. Sure did. Cat temp, it should look like that. Absolutely. So now that we know that the script works, we want to clean up. Go back real quick. See all this ugly garbage here? We don't want the user to see that. That's fine when we're testing. Now that we know it works, we'll go here and add the -Q switch for quiet. Now, let's go back. Okay. Instead of me having to type that in, what can we add here at the bottom that will help us? What's the file that we're looking at when we're finished? Temp. So let's just put cat temp right into here. And notice how I keep doing this every time. Why don't we add this line to our script? And we could add it here. That way we don't have to keep messing with that. This is just for kind of debugging right now. Alright. So now we get an error as soon as we run this script. What happens? Or why do we get the error? We covered this really early on. We're trying to remove files that don't exist, and we're trying to block that from the user. So how do we get rid of that error to the user? Correct. So come over here. Now, run the script. Fixed. Alright, now, so let's do our thing. wget. It's taking a second. And it should get the file. Give you guys a second to get caught up. We're good? All right. Again, we want to be able to reuse code from our old scripts. So, just like we did before, we should be able to copy all this right here from our open list. Paste that in, and we're going to modify it. What variable, or what are we going to change here? Exactly. We sure do. So come back over here, copy that. Always keep your scripts, no matter how small and insignificant you think you are, because you'll always be able to go back and go, hey, I've already done it before. Copy, paste. Yeah. Now, we should be able to run that. Wget. It's going to parse that file. Open Firefox, sleep for 4 seconds. Start the for loop. What happened? What? Right. So what we did was we opened Firefox with a new tab, but we only gave it the domain. I'm sorry, we only gave it the folders. What do we need to do? How do we fix that? What are we missing right here? Exactly. It's already defined. Right here. Oh. Now, is this part right here correct? Or is there something that I'm sorry. Hold on. Is this correct? Why? Correct. What else? Right. Because our file, when we look at our temp file, the first character in that file is a slash. So let's give that a shot. So we can see we still got our junk files there. And when we run robots.txt, if we open up another tab, do a list, we can see that they're deleted. Just none of that works. Okay, so the domain. Wait 4 seconds. Bang. Now you notice the Firefox opens, or Iceweasel opens up super quick now. Again, we use that 4 seconds just in case you send this to a friend, he or she hasn't opened up Firefox yet. Okay. Then you would go back through and just start looking here at the different pages and going, hey, what's all this stuff? So these are the pages that CNN doesn't want crawlers to take a look at. Again, we're just rehashing code. You had that. So the only thing new here was the wget. We learned two different ways to parse a file, one using awk, one using cut. And then we also learned right here that you can jam two variables side by side each other. Robots.txt is normally an informational finding, but every now and then you might find some tidbit of information in there that's useful. This, I use that all the time. Especially like when you're doing an internal assessment and you have a list of all hosts that are running port 80 or whatever. I want to throw those into here, and hopefully I'll see some like admin interfaces that are open. Like, oh, here's an admin interface to a switch or your WSS or what have you. Okay, so now that we got 4 different scripts, let's create another script and copy the first 5 lines, paste that in, and let's just call this one master or main. Okay, so now that we have 4 different scripts, we want to be able to build a small menu so that we can send these out to our buddies and package all this stuff to get up together. So we're just going to do some cosmetic stuff here. Oops. Okay. Notice how the colors changed between here and here? Very good. Okay. So let's build, so we got a menu of 4 different options here. So let's say something to that effect. It's just a splash screen and it's a brief description of each one of the 4 scripts that you've already written. All right, so now we're going to have the user choose. And let's just echo that back to make sure that it's working. Okay. Everyone caught up? All right, so the next case, or the next command, I'm sorry, that we're going to use, cover is the case. So let's say case. Whoa. And so what does this spell right here? Thank you. Okay. Same here. First time I was like, what? Oh, exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. Okay. Okay. So we want to have it do something. So notice that there's a semicolon at the end of each one of those. So we got case, the variable, which is our input from the user, and these are our four options, case spelled backwards. So let's just, to validate that each one of these things are working, what can we put here? Something simple. How about just echo 1? Okay, so it echoed it back, but we got the syntax at 22. Okay, so basically now we're wanting to call these scripts. So our first script is called what's this one going to be? Right? This one? Yeah. This one? Robots. error here. Everyone getting a syntax error?
Yes.
All right. Sorry. Try 2 semicolons. All right, so double semicolon at the end, fixed our syntax error. What's wrong now? Exactly. There we go. Sorry. So now we're using a case statement to call external scripts. So what have we not checked for? Right. So if they hit nothing, it just bombs out. What happens if 5? So basically we need to be able to check for errors. How we do that? Oops. So we do star, and that checks for a wrong choice. So now you've built your own framework. This is your master start page. You know how to call external scripts and just expand upon this idea and keep adding to your framework. Does everyone have this page? Okay? All right. Here's my main framework. So I've added in a little bit of color. I check for no response, or sorry, just okay. For the recon section under domain, we've covered part of this passive stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and add this And we'll just pick on Marshall. So what this is doing now is it's ganging together. It's saying it's running DNS recon against the domain that I gave it, and this is the first of 23 tests that it's running. So again, it's those little teeny pieces that we built that we're just adding and adding and adding on. So like with GUHost, we did two different types of switches. We used the IP and the email. Same way with the Harvester, it's going to use several different switches in that. So what I want you to do is go back, pick up one of these tools. You may already know how to use DNS Recon. You may know how to use the Harvester. That might be your tool. Go ahead and build a new script using the guidelines that we gave you and start adding to your framework. We talked about adding these lines in. That was with the break variable. Okay, while this is executing, anyone have any questions on anything we've done? Yes, sir. That's your homework. You need to be able to use functions within the script, which I haven't got to yet in this course. And you basically call the very main function and say, you failed, here's your error message, go to the beginning. So, for example, the Harvester, to get all the switches you need to get the output, it might be 3 or 4 switches that you don't want to memorize. You just want to figure out what that is and then put that into your framework. So, and then pass it the domain variable. All right. So here we already used the, press, so it's saying that your supporting data is located at this location. Press enter to continue. Sleep for 4 seconds. We've already done this right here. Basically pulling up various different websites and throwing that domain in there. So let's take a look at some other websites that I didn't talk about. Netcraft is a great site. Shodan, Salesforce. We didn't talk about Google hacking, but basically what we're doing here is we're saying, give me the file type of XLS or XLSX at the site of marshall.edu. And all that can be manipulated right here, and we've already done 2 examples of that, one for people and one for domains. So let's just take it a further step. Start, look at your Google Dorks, use the same type of thing. So I did this for Excel, PowerPoint, Word docs, PDFs, text files. Pastebin, I don't have that scripted in yet. That's just one I'll put up there. Same way with Salesforce. I have to log into that, but it's something that I do. Same way with Aaron. Shodan, URL void. This is a great website to say, hey, this company right here is saying that Marshall's blocked because of spam, or all these others are not. All right, so let's take a look at what came out in our report. So let's go to so this is a little web interface that I put together. Instead of handing a bunch of text files to the client, you can basically just point and click. It's all the data that you've looked at already. It's just in a really user-friendly, viewable manner. When I gave this presentation before, I was actually used Marshall. And I was testing the night before, and I was cruising through the results here, and I actually found some active grades that were hosted online. And I was doing the testing, the presentation the night before, and someone in the IT department was there that next morning. I contacted them before I gave my presentation and said, hey, I found this last night. You should take this down before I do my presentation. And they tracked it down and pulled the grades offline. But you never know what type of juicy stuff you'll find. Okay. So we did that with a domain. There's obviously active tools that you can run. Again, explore through the active tools that you like. Script that stuff up. Person, we already did all that here. And there's so under the web section, open up multiple tabs in Iceweasel. And I said, we actually did both these examples right here. If you want to open up a multiple tab from a list or from the directories of a domain server.txt text file. You guys already did that stuff. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you. I'll be around all weekend. Let's see here. Let me put this website up again. GitHub/Lee Baird. And inside of Discover, under the notes, I'll have a folder called HackerCon. And inside of that, it'll have the 5 scripts that you guys built today. Okay? Very welcome. Hope that helps.